The deep space sensors of the Galactic Council flickered with new data. Something unusual was happening in a small star system at the edge of the galaxy. Ambassador Zexathara studied the readings on her command screen. Energy signatures showed signs of nuclear technology and basic spaceflight. Another primitive species was ready for contact. Zexathara had done this 847 times before. She was the Council's best diplomat, known for bringing new species into galactic society without violence. Her record was perfect. Every species eventually understood that joining the Council was the only path to survival and progress. The Council ruled over 12 major civilizations and hundreds of smaller ones. They had brought peace to the galaxy for 10,000 years. Their system was simple and effective. New species were given 3 choices: join willingly, join after a demonstration of power, or face isolation until they changed their minds. No species had ever chosen isolation for long. "Prepare the standard first contact fleet," Zexathara ordered her crew. The Vulcan ship Harmony's voice was massive, stretching over 5 kilometers long. Its hull shimmered with energy shields that could withstand the firepower of entire planetary defense systems. Behind it followed 12 other ships from different Council species, each representing the diversity and strength of galactic civilization. As they approached the system the locals called Sol, Zexathara reviewed the data. The third planet, Earth, held the dominant species. They called themselves humans. Their technology was crude but showed rapid development. They had split the atom, built computers, and even sent primitive spacecraft to their moon. Most importantly, they had achieved global communication networks. "Standard approach, Captain," Zexathara said. "Position us at the edge of their sensor range. Let them discover us naturally." This was always the first step. New species needed time to understand they weren't alone in the universe. Panic was normal. Fear was expected. But eventually curiosity would win. They would try to make contact, and the Council would respond with patience and wisdom. The human reaction was immediate and chaotic. Their military forces went on high alert. Radio signals filled space as their governments talked frantically to each other. Zexathara smiled. This was exactly what happened every time. But then something strange occurred. Instead of the usual random panic, the humans began organizing. Their separate nations started working together. Military assets moved into coordinated positions. Most surprising of all, they launched dozens of spacecraft toward the Council fleet. "Are they attacking us?" asked Captain Mordoon, a young Vulcan officer. Zexathara studied the approaching human ships. They were tiny, barely the size of escape pods. Their weapons were primitive chemical rockets and basic energy beams. Against Council shields, they might as well have been throwing stones. "No," she said slowly. "I think they're trying to communicate." The human ship stopped at a respectful distance and began broadcasting on multiple frequencies. The messages came in hundreds of different languages, but the Council's translators quickly decoded them. The content made Zexathara frown. The humans weren't asking for protection or guidance. They weren't begging for mercy or offering submission. Instead, they were demanding identification, stating territorial claims, and asking about the Council's intentions. Some messages were polite but firm. Others were openly hostile. All of them treated the Council as equals rather than superior beings. "This is unusual," muttered Dr. Kellix, the expedition's xenopsychologist. "Most species show immediate deference to obviously superior technology. These humans seem to be negotiating." Zexathara had seen stubborn species before, but never one this organized. Usually, first contact involved dealing with a single government or leader. The humans seemed to have dozens of separate power structures, yet they were all somehow working together. She decided to follow standard protocol, open a channel to their planet, broadcast the standard greeting. The message was simple and had worked for thousands of years. "Greetings, children of Earth. We are the Galactic Council, representatives of advanced civilizations throughout the galaxy. We come in peace to welcome you into galactic society. Prepare to receive our diplomatic mission." The human response came within hours, but it wasn't what the Council expected. Instead of wonder or fear, the humans sent back a list of questions. They wanted to know about Council government structure, territorial claims, trade policies, and military capabilities. They asked for proof of the Council's peaceful intentions and demanded guarantees of Earth's sovereignty. Most shocking of all, they refused to allow any Council ships to approach Earth until these questions were answered to their satisfaction. "They're refusing us?" Captain Morden couldn't hide his amazement. No species has ever refused first contact. Zexathara studied the human messages more carefully. The questions were intelligent and showed understanding of complex political issues. These humans weren't primitive savages. They were asking the same questions that mature civilizations might ask before signing treaties. But that was impossible. Species didn't develop interstellar politics before they developed interstellar travel. The Council had always been there to guide new species through their first steps into galactic society. Without that guidance, civilizations usually destroyed themselves or stagnated. "Send the cultural assessment team," Zexathara ordered. "I want to understand these humans better." The assessment team worked for days studying human broadcasts, literature, and historical records. What they found disturbed the entire Council delegation. Humans had a history of resisting authority. They had fought wars against empires, overthrown kings, and repeatedly chosen dangerous freedom over safe servitude. Their stories celebrated rebels, underdogs, and those who stood against overwhelming odds. They seemed to value independence more than security. Even more troubling, humans had experience with colonial powers. They knew what it looked like when advanced civilizations claimed to help primitive ones. Their history was full of examples where such help had led to exploitation and cultural destruction. "They don't trust us," Dr. Kelks reported to Zexathara. "Their entire cultural development has prepared them to be suspicious of powerful outsiders offering aid." This created a serious problem. The Council's integration system depended on new species being grateful for guidance. If a species didn't want guidance, the system broke down. Zexathara tried different approaches. She offered technology transfers, promised protection from galactic threats, and explained the benefits of Council membership. The humans listened politely, asked detailed questions, and then declined every offer. They wanted to develop their own technology. They insisted on handling their own protection. Most frustratingly, they refused to accept that the Council had any authority over Earth or human space. "What do they want from us?" Zexathara asked Dr. Kelks after another failed negotiation. "I think they want us to leave them alone," the xenopsychologist replied. That was unacceptable. The Council had rules about primitive species. They couldn't be allowed to develop advanced technology without proper guidance. History showed that unguided species either destroyed themselves or became threats to galactic peace. But the humans weren't following the script. They weren't destroying themselves. Instead, their cooperation with the Council crisis had accelerated their technological development. They were reverse engineering Council sensor data and making breakthrough discoveries. Zexathara realized she was facing something completely new. A species that didn't want to be saved. A civilization that preferred dangerous freedom to safe surrender. Humans who looked at the most successful galactic government in history and said, "No, thank you." For the first time in her long career, Zexathara didn't know what to do next. The Council protocols had no plan for this situation. How do you help someone who doesn't want help? How do you guide someone who refuses to follow? The answer, she feared, would change everything. Zexathara stood in the Council's main conference chamber, facing 12 holographic images of the galaxy's most powerful leaders. The emergency session had been called after 3 months of failed negotiations with the humans. Every Council member was demanding answers. "This situation has gone on too long," declared High Executor Vashta of the Korthak Dominion. His reptilian features showed clear irritation. "One primitive planet is making the entire Council look weak. They have rejected every offer," added Matriarch Yiln of the Ethereal Collective. Her translucent form flickered with frustrated energy. "Technology, protection, trade agreements, cultural exchange. Nothing interests them." Zexathara had expected this reaction. The Council leaders weren't used to being refused. For thousands of years, their word had been law across the galaxy. The idea that a pre-spaceflight species could simply say no was beyond their experience. "The humans are unique," Zexathara tried to explain. "Their culture values independence above safety. They see our offers as attempts to control them. Then we use standard procedure," High Executor Vashta cut her off. "Demonstrate our power. Show them the consequences of refusing Council guidance. Every species understands reality when they see our capabilities." The demonstration of power was Council doctrine. When words failed, a show of overwhelming force usually convinced stubborn species to reconsider. It wasn't meant to cause damage, just to prove that resistance was pointless. "Prepare the stellar harmony." ordered Prime Minister Jolix of the Trade Federation. Position it over their major population centers. The usual display should be sufficient. The Stellar Harmony was the Council's largest ship. 25 kilometers long and powered by 3 artificial stars, it could be seen from a planet's surface during daylight. Its energy shields could withstand the combined firepower of most civilizations. When it appeared in a system, the message was clear: submit or face destruction. Zexathara felt uneasy as the massive ship moved toward Earth. Something about the humans made her think this wouldn't go as planned. But she had been overruled. The demonstration would proceed. The Stellar Harmony positioned itself above Earth's largest cities, rotating slowly to show its full size. Its hull glowed with barely contained energy. Weapon ports opened and closed in a carefully choreographed display. The ship's appearance alone had convinced 200 species to join the Council. The human reaction was swift and completely wrong. Every military installation on Earth opened fire simultaneously. Nuclear missiles rose from hidden silos. Energy weapons blazed from orbital platforms the humans had somehow built during the negotiations. Electromagnetic pulse weapons exploded around the ship, trying to disable its systems. The attacks were pathetically weak. The ship's shields absorbed everything without effort. Not a single human weapon could penetrate Council technology. But the humans didn't stop. They kept firing, kept trying, kept fighting against impossible odds. "They're actually attacking us," Captain Morden said in amazement. "With primitive weapons against full shields. They know it's useless." But Zexathara was watching the human communications networks. The attacks weren't random or desperate. They were coordinated, planned, and purposeful. The humans weren't trying to destroy the ship. They were trying to learn from it. Every missile that exploded against the shields carried sensors. Every energy blast was carefully calibrated to test different frequencies. The humans were fighting, but they were also studying. They were gathering data on Council technology while they fought. "Sir, we're detecting unusual activity in their computer networks," reported the ship's technical officer. "They're somehow penetrating our external sensors." That was impossible. Council cybersecurity was perfect. No primitive species had ever managed to hack Council systems. But alerts were flashing across every console as human viruses wormed their way into non-essential systems. The viruses weren't causing damage. Instead, they were copying everything they could access. Technical specifications, energy readings, shield frequencies. The humans were stealing Council technology even as they attacked the ship that carried it. "Pull back immediately," Zexathara ordered. "Full retreat to safe distance. Retreat?" High Executor Vashita's image flickered with rage. "From primitive weapons that can't even scratch our shields." "They're not trying to destroy us," Zexathara explained quickly. "They're reverse engineering our technology. Every attack is a learning opportunity for them. If we stay, we're giving them more data to study." The Council leaders fell silent as they realized the implications. No species had ever turned a demonstration of power into a research opportunity. The humans had found a way to benefit from their own defeat. But the situation got worse. Within days of the demonstration, human technology took impossible leaps forward. They built new spacecraft using principles they couldn't have discovered for decades. Their weapons improved dramatically. Their computers began matching Council performance. Most disturbing of all, they started asking new questions. Questions that showed they understood exactly how Council technology worked and where its weaknesses were. How did they learn so much so quickly? Dr. Kellick studied the human technological progress with fascination and fear. They advanced 50 years in 3 days. They're adaptive, Zexathara realized. More adaptive than any species we've encountered. They don't just learn from their own mistakes. They learn from every experience, even defeat. The humans also began broadcasting across the galaxy. Using captured Council communication frequencies, they sent messages to every known civilization. The messages contained detailed scans of Council ships, analysis of Council weapons, and evidence of Council territorial expansion. They were telling the galaxy that the mighty Council could be studied, understood, and potentially defeated. "This is a disaster." Matriarch Yiln's form flickered rapidly with distress. If other species see these broadcasts, they might question Council authority. The questioning had already begun. 3 Council member species requested emergency meetings to discuss revised partnership terms. Dozens of protected civilizations sent secret messages asking about the humans who had defied the Council and survived. The demonstration of power had backfired completely. Instead of showing Council strength, it had revealed Council vulnerability. Instead of forcing human submission, it had accelerated human development. Instead of ending the crisis, it had spread the crisis across the galaxy. "What do we do now?" asked Prime Minister Jolix. For the first time in Council history, the leader sounded uncertain. Zexathara looked at the data streaming in from Earth. Human spacecraft were already leaving their system, heading toward other civilizations. They weren't waiting for Council permission. They weren't following Council protocols. They were exploring the galaxy on their own terms. "I think," she said slowly, "we need to learn what the humans already know." "Which is what?" High Executive Vashita demanded. "That power demonstrations only work if the other side is afraid to fight back." The humans, Zexthara was beginning to understand, were not afraid of anything. Not superior technology, not overwhelming odds, not the most powerful government in galactic history. They were afraid only of surrender, and that made them more dangerous than any weapon the Council possessed. The Council's diplomatic compound on Earth's moon had become the strangest place in the galaxy. For 6 months, representatives from 12 different civilizations had attempted to negotiate with humans. Each delegation left more frustrated than the one before. Zexathara watched the latest group pack their belongings with barely contained anger. The ethereal collective had offered the humans immortality technology in exchange for basic Council membership. The humans had spent 3 weeks studying the offer, then politely declined. "They don't want to live forever?" Matriarch Yiln's translucent form shimmered with confusion. "Every species desires extended lifespans." "They said immortality without freedom isn't really living," Dr. Kellix explained, reading from his notes. They asked uncomfortable questions about how immortal species handle overpopulation and resource scarcity. The human negotiation team was unlike anything the Council had encountered. Instead of kings or presidents, Earth had sent economists, philosophers, historians, and scientists. They didn't just listen to offers. They analyzed them, questioned them, and found problems that the Council had never considered. The Korthak offered them planet-shaping technology. Zexathara reviewed the failed negotiations. Machines that could turn dead worlds into garden paradises in mere decades. The humans wanted to know what happened to the original ecosystems, Dr. Kellix continued. They asked if any species had ever refused to have their worlds reshaped. When they learned that refusal wasn't an option for Council members, they rejected the offer. Every Council species had tried their best negotiation strategies. The Trade Federation offered unlimited access to galactic markets. The humans asked about labor conditions and environmental standards, then suggested the Council's economic system was built on exploitation. The military alliance offered protection from all galactic threats. The humans asked what qualified as a threat and who made that decision. When they learned that the Council sometimes destroyed species that refused to join, they questioned whether the Council was the threat they needed protection from. The scientific consortium offered access to millions of years of accumulated knowledge. The humans accepted this offer, then used the knowledge to point out inconsistencies and errors in Council science. "They're making us look like fools," complained Ambassador Trix of the mining guilds. "Every offer we make, they find the hidden costs. Every benefit we promise, they question the price." The human questions were becoming legendary throughout the diplomatic compound. They asked why Council membership was permanent and irreversible. They wondered why new species never got voting rights equal to founding members. They wanted to know what happened to civilizations that tried to leave the Council. Those questions had no good answers, because the Council system wasn't designed to be questioned. For 10,000 years, new species had been grateful for guidance, protection, and advancement. They accepted Council authority without examining its foundations. But humans examined everything. They read every treaty, studied every law, and analyzed every precedent. Worse, they compared Council policies to their own history of colonialism and found disturbing similarities. The Council's integration process follows classic colonial patterns. The human chief negotiator, Dr. Sarah Chen, explained during one session. Advanced civilization arrives, claims to help primitive people, gradually takes control of resources and decision-making, then presents cultural assimilation as inevitable progress. "That's completely different," protested Ambassador Zexathara. The Council brings peace, stability, and advancement to new species. So did every colonial empire in human history, Dr. Chen replied calmly. They all claimed to civilize the natives. The results were always the same. The natives lost their independence, their culture, and their freedom to choose their own path. These conversations were being broadcast across the galaxy. Other species were listening as humans systematically dismantled the Council's moral authority. Questions that had never been asked were suddenly being discussed on hundreds of worlds. The Council's response was to bring out their ultimate negotiating tool, the success stories. Representatives from happy Council member species came to Earth to explain how wonderful Council membership was. The presentations were disasters. The gentle singers from Harmony Prime spoke of the peace they had achieved after giving up their warrior traditions. The humans asked if any singers had ever disagreed with that choice. When it became clear that disagreement was no longer possible because the warrior traditions had been completely erased, the humans called it cultural genocide. The efficient builders from Production Central explained how Council industrial standards had maximized their planet's output. The humans calculated that the standardization process had eliminated 90% of their species' original art, music, and literature. They asked if efficiency was worth losing cultural diversity. The wise scholars from Learning Station described how Council education had elevated their civilization's knowledge. The humans discovered that all original wise scholar philosophy, religion, and mythology had been replaced with Council-approved thinking. They asked what wisdom was worth if you couldn't think your own thoughts. Each success story became evidence for the human argument that Council membership meant slow extinction of everything that made a species unique. There, turning our greatest achievements into horror stories. Matriarch Yiln complained during an emergency council session. Species that were grateful for civilization are being portrayed as victims. But the damage was spreading. 3 Council member species formally requested reviews of their membership terms. Dozens of protected civilizations began asking for copies of human legal analysis of Council treaties. Some species even started sending their own negotiators to Earth to learn human argumentation techniques. The humans, meanwhile, weren't just defending themselves. They began making their own offers. We propose an alternative to Council membership, Dr. Chen announced during a public broadcast. Voluntary cooperation between equal partners. Technology sharing without cultural standardization. Mutual defense without permanent subservience. Trade without economic colonization. The humans called it the Free Species Alliance. Any civilization could join, leave at any time, and maintain complete sovereignty over their own worlds and people. Decisions would be made by consensus, not by the most powerful members. It sounded impossible to the Council. How could hundreds of different species cooperate without central authority? How could trade work without standardized systems? How could peace be maintained without superior force? But the humans were already demonstrating answers. They had formed partnerships with 3 species that the Council considered too primitive for contact. Instead of civilizing these species, the humans were learning from them and sharing knowledge as equals. The aquatic minds from the deep sphere taught humans about underwater engineering. In exchange, humans shared their medical technology. Both species benefited without either one losing their independence. The crystal growers from the bright rings showed humans how to communicate through light patterns. Humans taught them about computer networks. The result was a new form of communication that neither species could have developed alone. The gas dancers from the wind realm offered humans their understanding of atmospheric dynamics. Humans provided space travel technology. Together, they began terraforming projects that improved worlds instead of destroying existing ecosystems. They're building their own galactic civilization, Dr. Kelks reported with something like awe. Without any central authority, without cultural standardization, without forcing anyone to give up their independence. It should be chaos, but somehow it's working. The Free Species Alliance grew quickly. Every month, new civilizations joined the voluntary partnership. They kept their own governments, their own cultures, and their own territories. They cooperated because they chose to, not because they were forced to. The Council watched in growing alarm as their careful galactic order began to crumble. Species they had controlled for millennia were demanding the same freedoms that humans had claimed as their birthright. We have to stop this, High Executor Vashita declared during another emergency session. The humans are destroying everything we've built. Maybe, Zexthera said quietly, Everything we built needed to be destroyed. For the first time in Council history, an ambassador was questioning the system itself. The humans had done more than refuse Council membership. They had shown that Council membership might not be worth accepting, and that realization would change the galaxy forever. The emergency alert reached every Council facility in the galaxy simultaneously. Human spacecraft had appeared in the Rigel system, making unauthorized contact with the protected flower people of Garden World. This was the 15th such incident in as many days. Zexathara studied the tactical display in the Council Command Center. Red dots marked human ships scattered across dozens of star systems. They weren't following any known exploration patterns. Instead, they seemed to be visiting specific worlds that the Council had classified as developing or protected. How are they moving so fast? Captain Morden traced the human expansion routes with growing amazement. 3 months ago, they had barely achieved interplanetary flight. Now they're appearing in systems hundreds of light years apart. The answer was uncomfortably obvious. Humans had reverse-engineered Council faster than light technology and improved it. Their ships were smaller than Council vessels but faster and more maneuverable. Worse, they were being built at an incredible rate. Production estimates indicate the humans are launching 50 new spacecraft per day, reported the Strategic Analysis Division. Their industrial capacity has increased by 400% since first contact. That should have been impossible. No species could advance that quickly without massive external support. But the humans weren't receiving help from advanced civilizations. They were creating their own advancement through methods the Council had never seen. They're not just copying our technology, Dr. Kellix explained during his latest briefing. They're understanding it, modifying it, and combining it with their own innovations. They're creating hybrid technologies that are often better than our originals. The human exploration strategy was also completely wrong, according to Council doctrine. Instead of establishing colonies and claiming territory, humans were making contact with existing species and offering partnership. They weren't conquering worlds. They were building relationships. Status report from Garden World. Came the communication from Council scout ship Vigilant Watcher. The flower people have declined our protection renewal. They want to join the Human Free Species Alliance instead. This was the nightmare scenario. The flower people had been under Council protection for 800 years. They were a peaceful agricultural species that had never shown any interest in galactic politics. If they could be turned against the Council, any species could be. What did the humans offer them? High Executor Vashta demanded during the Emergency Council session. Nothing, Zexathara replied, reviewing the intelligence reports. The humans asked what the flower people wanted and then offered to help them achieve it without requiring anything in return. The flower people wanted to share their agricultural techniques with other worlds suffering from food shortages. Under Council protection protocols, such sharing required approval from the Agricultural Ministry, environmental impact studies, and cultural compatibility assessments. The process usually took decades. The humans simply connected the flower people with hungry worlds and let them work together. Directly, they're undermining our entire regulatory system, complained Trade Minister Jolix. Uncontrolled technology transfer could cause ecological disasters, economic disruption, or cultural contamination. But it's working, Dr. Kellix pointed out. The flower people's techniques are ending famines on 12 worlds. The grateful species are joining the Free Species Alliance voluntarily. This pattern was repeating across the galaxy. Humans weren't imposing their will on other species. Instead, they were asking what each species wanted and helping them achieve their goals. The approach was so simple that the Council had never tried it. The crystal growers wanted to share their architectural knowledge. Council regulations required centuries of safety testing. Humans helped them build crystal cities on empty worlds, creating homes for refugee species displaced by various galactic conflicts. The deep swimmers wanted to explore ocean worlds that the Council had classified as uninhabitable for land-based species. Humans modified spacecraft for underwater exploration and discovered thriving civilizations that the Council had never noticed. The Wind Dancers wanted to develop zero-pollution energy systems. Council industrial standards prioritized efficiency over environmental protection. Humans helped them create clean energy networks that powered entire star systems without harmful emissions. Each success brought more species to the Free Species Alliance. Each new member brought unique capabilities that strengthened the entire network. The Alliance was growing into something the galaxy had never seen a civilization based on cooperation instead of control. Intelligence reports indicate that 47 species have now joined the alliance, the Strategic Analysis Division reported. 12 of those were previously under Council protection. 5 were actually Council members who chose to leave. That last number sent shockwaves through the command center. Council membership was supposed to be permanent. The legal framework didn't even include procedures for voluntary departure, but the humans had helped 5 species write their own independence declarations and defend them against Council objections. "They're stealing our members," High Executor Vashita said with cold fury. "This is an act of war." Actually, it isn't. Zexthara had been studying human legal documents. They're not forcing anyone to leave the Council. They're simply offering an alternative and letting species choose for themselves. The choice was becoming easier as more information spread about both systems. Council members learned that their protection came with hidden costs: surrendered sovereignty, cultural homogenization, and permanent dependence on Council approval for major decisions. Alliance members kept complete independence while gaining access to a growing network of voluntary partners. They could leave at any time, make their own decisions, and develop their cultures however they chose. "The humans have weaponized freedom," Dr. Kellox observed. "They're not conquering anyone. They're offering choice to species that had forgotten choice was possible." But the humans weren't just offering choices. They were also sharing weapons technology with Alliance members, not powerful enough to threaten the Council directly, but sufficient to make forced reintegration costly and difficult. More importantly, they were sharing information technology. Alliance species could communicate across the galaxy instantly and securely. Council attempts to monitor or intercept these communications failed repeatedly. The humans had created a galactic internet that the Council couldn't control. "They're coordinating resistance," reported the Intelligence Division. "Alliance species are sharing resources, technology, and strategic information in real time. They're acting like a single civilization while maintaining individual independence." This coordination was having unexpected effects. Alliance species began developing technologies that no single civilization could have created alone. They shared resources to solve problems that had puzzled individual species for generations. They combined different approaches to science and engineering, creating innovations that surpassed Council achievements. "The Alliance is becoming more advanced than we are." Dr. Kelx's latest report contained disturbing news. "Their distributed research network is making discoveries faster than our centralized institutes. Their diverse approaches to problems are producing better solutions than our standardized methods." The Council faced a crisis unlike anything in their history. For 10,000 years, they had been the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Their technology, their knowledge, and their experience had made them natural leaders. Other species followed them because the Council was obviously superior, but the Free Species Alliance was proving that diversity might be stronger than uniformity. Cooperation might be more effective than control. Freedom might produce better results than security. "What do we do?" Prime Minister Jolix asked during the latest emergency session. "Our entire system is being challenged. We fight," High Executive Vashita declared. "The humans started this war when they refused to accept galactic order. We end it by destroying their alliance before it destroys us." "Is it a war if they haven't attacked us?" Zexthara asked quietly. "They're attacking our way of life," Vashita replied. "They're destroying galactic stability. They're turning our own members against us. If that isn't war, what is?" Zexthara didn't have an answer, but she suspected that the humans did. They always seemed to have answers, even to questions no one had thought to ask. And soon the galaxy would learn what those answers were. The Council's war fleet was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 5,000 ships from 12 civilizations converged on the Centauri system, where the Free Species Alliance had established their capital on a world they called Hope Station. The message was clear: submit or face annihilation. High Executor Vashita commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Absolute Authority. The ship was a monument to Council power, armed with weapons that could destroy planets and protected by shields that had never been breached. Around it floated the combined might of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful civilizations. "Alliance fleet detected," reported the tactical officer. "Approximately 2,000 ships of various configurations." Vashita smiled coldly. The Alliance had grown quickly, but their ships were mostly converted civilian vessels from dozens of different species. They had no unified command structure, no standardized weapons, no coordinated battle tactics. It would be a massacre. This ends today, he announced to the fleet. The humans and their deluded followers will learn that there is only one galactic order, ours. But as the two fleets approached each other, something unexpected happened. The Alliance ships didn't form battle lines or assume defensive positions. Instead, they spread out in apparently random patterns, mixing human vessels with ships from dozens of other species. What are they doing? The tactical officer asked in confusion. That formation makes no strategic sense. Ambassador Zexathera, reluctantly present as the Council's diplomatic observer, studied the Alliance deployment with growing unease. I don't think it's a military formation. I think it's something else. Her suspicions were confirmed when the Alliance fleet began broadcasting. Not military communications or surrender offers, but information. Detailed records of Council expansion over the past 10,000 years. Financial analyses showing how Council protection agreements enriched the core worlds while impoverishing the protected ones. Cultural assessments demonstrating how Council integration had led to the extinction of hundreds of unique civilizations. The broadcasts weren't directed at the Council fleet. They were being transmitted across the galaxy to every inhabited world, every Council member species, every protected civilization. They're not fighting us, Zexthar realized. They're exposing us. The information was devastating because it was true. The Council had always portrayed their expansion as benevolent guidance, but the raw data told a different story. Species joined the Council because they were given no choice. Protection came with costs that were never explained until it was too late to refuse. The integration meant the gradual replacement of local culture with Council standards. Stop those broadcasts, Vashta ordered. Jam their communications. But the Alliance had learned from their encounters with Council technology. Their communication systems were distributed across thousands of ships and civilian stations. Jamming one source only activated backup networks. The information kept flowing. More damaging than the historical data were the personal testimonies. Beings from former Council member species spoke about what they had lost. Languages that no longer existed. Art forms that had been standardized out of existence. Religious beliefs that had been deemed incompatible with galactic civilization. The gentle singers from Harmony Prime, once praised as a Council success story, revealed that their peaceful nature had been achieved through genetic modification. They had once been a warrior species, but the Council had altered their biology to eliminate aggression. They could no longer defend themselves even if they wanted to. The efficient builders from Production Central admitted that their standardized architecture had destroyed their planet's ecosystem. Council industrial methods were so efficient that they had turned their world into a factory, eliminating all native life in pursuit of maximum productivity. The wise scholars from Learning Station confessed that they could no longer create original philosophy or art. Council education had trained them to think within approved parameters. They had become living computers, able to process information but unable to generate new ideas. This is propaganda, Vashta declared, but his voice lacked conviction. The testimonies were coming from species the Council had always held up as examples of successful integration. The broadcasts were having immediate effects. Across the galaxy, Council member species were demanding explanations. Protected civilizations were asking why protection required surrendering independence. Even some Council core worlds were questioning policies they had never thought to examine. Fleet status report, Vashta called, trying to refocus on military objectives. 7 ships have requested permission to withdraw. The communications officer reported nervously. The crews are questioning the mission parameters. This was unprecedented. Council military forces had never questioned orders, but the Alliance broadcasts included testimony from military personnel who had participated in forced integrations, species who had been destroyed for refusing Council membership, civilizations that had been wiped out to make room for Council colonies. No withdrawals permitted, Vashta ordered. Any ship that attempts to leave formation will be fired upon. But the damage was spreading throughout the fleet. Council forces were composed of beings from dozens of species, many of whom were learning uncomfortable truths about their own integration. The Korthak had thought they joined the Council through negotiation. They discovered that the Council had secretly sabotaged their economy first, making membership seem like the only solution to artificially created problems. The ethereal collective believed they had been welcomed as equals. They learned that their energy-based existence had been considered exotic entertainment for Council Core worlds. They were partners only as long as they remained amusing. The Trade Federation had assumed their commercial success proved the value of Council membership. They realized that Council trade policies had been designed to prevent them from developing independent economic relationships, keeping them dependent on Council markets. "We need to attack immediately," Vashta declared, "before these lies destroy fleet cohesion." But the Alliance had one more surprise. As the Council fleet moved into attack position, civilian ships began appearing throughout the system. Not military vessels, but transports, cargo haulers, passenger liners, and scientific research vessels. Thousands of them representing hundreds of species. "Who are they?" the tactical officer asked. "Refugees," Zexthera realized. "Species fleeing Council territory to join the Alliance." The civilian exodus had been building for months as word spread about the Free Species Alliance. Entire civilizations were abandoning Council worlds to settle in Alliance territory. They weren't being forced to leave. They were choosing freedom over security. "Some of those ships are from our own member species," reported the intelligence officer. "We're watching our own citizens defect to the Alliance." Vashta faced an impossible decision. He could attack the Alliance military fleet, but that would mean firing through thousands of civilian vessels. The galaxy would see the Council destroying refugee ships filled with families seeking freedom. Alternatively, he could withdraw and admit that the Council couldn't defeat a loose alliance of diverse species armed with improvised weapons and impossible ideals. "Sir, we're receiving a communication from the Alliance flagship," the communications officer announced. The message appeared on the main screen, showing the human negotiator Dr. Sarah Chen, standing beside representatives of dozens of species. Behind them, the bridge crew included beings from across the galaxy, all working together without any obvious hierarchy. "High Executor Vashta," Dr. Chen spoke calmly, "we know you're facing a difficult choice. You can attack us and become the galactic tyrant that destroys refugees and civilians, or you can withdraw and admit that force cannot stop an idea whose time has come. There is a third option," she continued. "You can join us. The Free Species Alliance welcomes all beings who choose cooperation over control, diversity over uniformity, freedom over security, even former Council leaders who are ready to build something better." The offer was broadcast across both fleets and throughout the galaxy. The most powerful military force in history was being invited to surrender by a collection of civilian vessels and converted cargo ships. "The Alliance offers what the Council never could," Dr. Chen concluded. "The right to choose your own path, to keep your own culture, to make your own mistakes and celebrate your own successes. We offer partnership between equals instead of protection by superiors." Vashta stared at the screen in fury. "You're offering chaos. Without central authority, without standardized systems, without superior guidance, civilizations destroy themselves." "Some do," Dr. Chen agreed. "Freedom includes the freedom to fail, but it also includes the freedom to succeed beyond anything a controlling authority would permit. Look around you, High Executor. Which system is really working?" The question hung in space as both fleets waited. Around them, the galaxy was choosing. Council member species were declaring independence. Protected civilizations were refusing further protection. Even some Council core worlds were requesting Alliance membership. The galactic order that had lasted 10,000 years was crumbling not through military defeat, but through simple choice. When given alternatives, beings chose freedom.